Hisashiburi. Sorry that it's been so long, guys. I've been moving house and trying to work out how I can work from home for my job and a bunch of huge life things. So I haven't really done many more of these novel episodes for a while. So I'm really sorry about that. But anyway, so hopefully these will be more regular again soon. As I said, life's been kind of happening all over the shop. So hopefully it sort of calm down and I can get back to doing more of these podcast episodes. I've been keeping up to date with the blog at least. So I've been doing the rewatch of Adventure and a couple of blog posts in between those just about random topics. So hopefully everyone's been reading and enjoying those. But in terms of the podcast, it's not been as active as I've been previously keeping it. And I'm really sorry about that. So I'd like to continue on with this novel series as I'm enjoying reading this out, and from the feedback we've had so far, there's been only positive, so that's great. Keep that up, I guess. So I'll be continuing on with this. So this is our 11th part of the novel reading, and this time we'll be covering Chapter 3, Part 5. So yes, let's keep up with this. Onwards and upwards. Part 5. Taichi's Trial. If what he said is true, he won't bring any harm to Sora-kun. But we can't just leave things alone the way they are. Hey, I know that. But how will we be able to save Sora-san? If we attacked him from the front, that would be bad, I know. Koshiro, can you use the network to do something? I can't. The reason why Etamon hadn't discovered us before now was because Nanomon... I know saying this doesn't sit well with us, but it's because he helped us. Unless we can outwit that Nanomon, I don't think it's possible. Then, should we attack from the front after all? As the children continued to discuss strategy inside a military bunker that wasn't too far away from the pyramid, a big ... was what their conversation had boiled down to. None of them could think of a good way to save Sora. Even if they wanted to attack from the front, they didn't have enough people on their side to put up a fight. Without Pixiemon to evolve and Sora to help her do that, all they had left were the 4 adult levels: Garurumon, Ikakumon, Kabuterimon, and Togemon. Just then, Takeru, who'd been quietly listening the whole time, suddenly stood up straight and raised his hand. "I have an idea." "What?" Yamato asked. Takeru straightened up even further and said, "I know he's our enemy, but maybe Etamon could help us." Yamato's ears turned red all the way to his earlobes. "What are you talking about, Takeru? Of course he wouldn't do that." But as if he held admiration for Takeru's wild idea, Koshiro asked, "What made you come up with that idea?" Takeru peeked nervously at his brother's face as he continued, "Because Nanomon is Etamon's enemy, right? Then since we're the same..." Mimi smiled crookedly, thinking that it was the sort of view to be expected from a second grader. But next to her, Joe suddenly rubbed his head with both hands, skewing his hair. That might be a good idea." "What do you mean, Joe-senpai?" Mimi asked, staring at him wide-eyed. "Well, going up to him and asking for his help isn't going to work, but if we set up Etamon to attack the pyramid, perhaps we could create an opening?" But wouldn't that be dangerous?" Mimi asked. It may be dangerous, but I do think that it's worth a shot," Koshiro said, coming to Joe's aid. "First, if we make it go right, it may end with Etamon and Nanomon attacking each other. Even if both of them survive from it, they'd have taken a lot of damage. Secondly, it would give me the opportunity to learn more about the pyramid's security. If we only keep standing by to watch, the dangers won't change. So I agree with Joe-san's idea." "Me too," Yamato nodded, a serious look in his eyes. Then he jostled his younger brother's head for a job well done. What he really may have wanted to do was pet him, but with everyone watching, he was just too embarrassed to do it. While their conference was taking place, Taichi was sitting at a corner of the bunker with his mouth shut. Agumon was next to him, wearing the same broody look as Taichi. Joe skidded over whether he should call out to him or not, and then he decided to at least ask for his opinion. Taichi, what do you think? I think that's fine, so what should I do? If you need someone to lure out Edamon, I'll volunteer, but will you even take me? From the way he said it, he seemed to be aware that he was not considered a part of the attack force. No, we can have Tentomon do that. Me? Well, it's true that I'm the only one who can fly amongst everyone here, so I guess that's how it goes. Tentomon nodded as understanding peeled over his face. Taichi-san, why don't you protect Takuru-kun? Koshiro suggested. Okay, Taichi said, nodding. But because his expression looked terribly sad, Takuru, as small as he was, took in the situation and gave him a smart and deep bow. Taichi-san, I am in your care. After chaining his hostage Sora to the wall, Nanomon used his repaired hand to hit the keyboard keys at a speed that couldn't be caught by the eye. He had changed the network system and programmed skillfully, without any of his enemies noticing. Edamon, Vamdemon, and the Dark Masters behind them. Have they already finished sealing the 4 holy beasts, I wonder? They all seemed to think that by changing the order of the world, it would make it easier to control. But as he had mentioned earlier, Nanomon did not agree. Nanomon, who had higher thinking processes than those fools combined, no doubt about it, was seeking to bring chaos into the world, but he found ironic as Edamon and the others were seeking order, and thus, Nanomon had a special secret plan. By releasing someone from the other end of the wall of fire, even one is enough, into this world, their presence alone would cause distortions to break out. Nanomon had no idea how much power it held, or even if it could be controlled. Still, if that ended up destroying this world, Nanomon didn't care, even if it was only for a short time, as long as it caused panic in Edamon for disgracing him. Damn it, just remembering it gets me all riled up. And those other morons behind him, that would be enough to satisfy him. Nanomon didn't realize it, but the grudges that seethed within his heart when he shouldn't have felt any emotion to begin with was due to a fatal error that had sparked out of one of the thought circuits that Edamon had destroyed. Go after him! After him! Edamon's spit flew as he yelled at the Gazimon next to him from his passenger seat. The retreating blue form of Kabuterimon was small on the upper left part of the front glass, but he could be seen. Does he honestly expect he can escape from me, that idiot? The yellow vinyl sheet that Mimi had snuck into camp without telling her father came in handy at an unexpected place. Once it was spread out over their heads, no one could distinguish them from the sandy soil around them. Like camouflage, Yamato said. He was thinking that the pyramid security system certainly wouldn't be expecting them to be using such childish methods. It was Joe who had come up with this idea. He even went so far as to name it Macbeth's Forest strategy, but neither Yamato or Mimi were interested enough to ask him why. Nevertheless, although he was normally so clumsy, even Joe thought strangely of himself that his head was working faster than usual for this plan. At the same time, he felt worried that his actions might somehow lead to the greatest clumsy act of all, and Joe strongly hoped that it wouldn't bring them to a lethal end. Ah, he's here! Gabumon yelled into Joe's ear. Joe couldn't see, but he had heard the buzzing of giant wings growing louder and knew that Kabuterimon, with Koshiro riding on top of him, was returning from completing his job. Guys, don't lay your guards down, Joe warned, mostly saying it for himself. The surveillance cameras informed him of the arrival of Edamon as his jumbo trailer pulled by Monochromon came into view. Why, Edamon? Nanomon thought suspiciously. He shouldn't have made any mistakes in covering up his trail. Did Edamon somehow find out about him tampering with the network system? Even as he thought this, Nanomon's hands did not pause in their work. Interference with the Wall of Fire would be capable enough to dominate the digital world, but its guard was secure. The agents had once guarded the Wall of Fire, and ever since one of the Dark Masters, Paimon, wiped them out, there hadn't been a sign of them to be seen. Even so, the guard system for the Wall of Fire kept working. But no matter, it wasn't beyond his ability. In fact, back when the agents were still active, he had hacked into the system once. Still, the Wall of Fire was giving him some difficulty. The alarm persisted, asking him what was to be done about Edamon. During a lull in his work, Nanomon typed in the command, "Delete all intruders," into the pyramid security system. Taichi and Takeru knew that the fight started when they heard the sound of an explosion and saw the resulting smoke. The two of them were waiting on standby at the military bunker that they had used to hold their strategic conference. Actually, standby was the better sounding way of putting it. In reality, they were in hiding. Taichi had experienced something similar to this only once in his life before. It was at a soccer match. In their last game, he had gotten too eager and had made a dangerous slide on the opponent's defender, getting himself a red card as a result. Because of that, Taichi had been taken off as a starter for the next game and had to sit on the bench. Even now, he could remember what Sora had said to him before that game. "I've got to thank you, Taichi. Since you're out, I get to be the one who scores the points." She wasn't joking, of course, to keep Taichi from feeling depressed. Still, he hadn't felt that bad back then. Now, it was different. After their fight with Cyclomon, Sora had said, "Why don't you try challenging yourself again? I know you. You'll be able to do it. I believe in you, Taichi." Those words were more tender than anything that she had ever said to him for as long as they had known each other. Normally, she'd be cracking jokes, but the reason why she hadn't done that was because she knew he was afflicted more so than before. Now that Sora was inside the pyramid, being held hostage by Nanomon, damn it, I'm supposed to be the first one in there to go in and save her. He could feel the tears of frustration threatening to pour out of his eyes. It was at that moment when Taichi heard a voice behind him. "Ho! I finally found you, Pea! Jenna asked for me to come here, Pea!" Whirling around, he saw a Digimon shaped like a pink ball with wings floating above him. "Ooh-kee-kee-kee-kee!" Edamon screeched with rage as a laser cannon that had appeared from the side of the pyramid blasted his trailer, his pride and joy, into smithereens. "That blasted Nanomon! What is he trying to do, defy me? How interesting then. I'll take him on. I won't be holding myself back this time. Oh no! After I've smashed him to pieces, I'll turn him into real scrap metal." And he sent orders en masse to the Digimon enslaved by the black cables. "Let's go, sweeties, charge!" Laser cannons from their side. I think the landmines are an even bigger problem, as they took note of various functions that the pyramid security system had in attacking Edamon's army. Yamato, Joe, Koshiro, and Mimi were discussing the best and safest ways that they could enter the pyramid. "It'll be difficult to escape from the front," Koshiro said. "It would help if Edamon's gang opened up a hole in the side somewhere." Hey, relying on others for help? If there's an open hole, I can use my poison ivy to sneak us in. But we don't know how things are set up inside. It could be filled with traps. Once again, rather than be concerned by the usual circumstances, they were more frustrated at drafting up an amateur plan that couldn't be based on anything essential. "So, what all can we do is sit back and watch?" "I didn't say that. Now, let's keep an eye on the situation for a little bit longer," Koshiro cut in, stopping Yamato and Joe from the beginnings of a quarrel. But even Koshiro himself didn't think that they could come up with an ingenious idea if they kept watching. The best they could hope for was that Enamon and Nanomon attack each other at the same time and fall. "Now, let's get you started on your training, Pea!" the fairy Digimon who called himself Pixiemon said. "Training? I don't have time for training." They were in the midst of a battle, and he had to go on some carefree trip to train? Taichi got angry. "You'll have plenty of time, Pea! Time doesn't move inside my barrier, so you can train as much as you want until you're satisfied, Pea!" "Really? What sort of training are you talking about here?" "Thinking about what you must do for training is another form of training, Pea! Also, it's no good looking for an answer, Pea. For all you know, there might not be one, Pea. But if you gain something, that will mean training was a success, Pea." "Gain something? Like a hint of evolution? Would you like to try it, Pea, or not, Pea?" Seeing Taichi hesitate, Takeru smiled brightly and said, "Taichi-san, you should go. I have Tokumon with me. The two of us can cover each other." Takeru seemed to think that Taichi was holding back because he didn't want to leave the boy on his own. But in reality, all Taichi had been thinking about was himself. He hadn't even considered Takeru in the slightest. It was the same back then, too. Taichi hadn't thought about Agumon's feelings or everyone else's feelings at all. He had gotten caught up in the excitement all by himself, and he had rushed forward all by himself, tripped over and failed all by himself. Even though he had friends like Takeru who, despite being so young, knew how to treat people like him with kindness. "You don't need to worry about this boy, P. I'll protect him with my life, P. I might not look it, but I'm perfect level, P." Taichi made up his mind. "I'll take the training," he said, "but it won't be for me. It'll be for Takeru, for Agumon, for everyone. I'll do the best I can." As Taichi passed through Piccolomon's barrier, for some reason he felt a bittersweet nostalgia sweep over him. Why is that? The scenery looked familiar. When was this? A past far, far away? His childhood? He's still a child. He's like 10. Childhood is now. Anyway. There weren't any clouds in the sky, but the scenery around him appeared drab and grey. It reminded him of that one time he had tried on Joe's glasses for fun and could only see things in a blur. There was the sound of a crash followed by, "Oh man!" A child's voice wailed. "Someone's here," Agumon said next to him in a low voice. "Yeah, let's go check it out." He was on top of a bridge. There was a river flowing underneath, which he couldn't see very well at first. But once the rotten stink of it hit Taichi's nostrils, it shook up memories that he had forgotten, and he could even see the river surface as clear as day. It was a dirty, muddy river filled with plastic bags from the convenience store that floated downstream when they weren't caught in rocks or a bush. Taichi remembered. It was the place that he had often played in as a kid. Squeak, squeak! A single bicycle passed right next to Taichi's side. Pushing on its pedals was a younger self, a younger Taichi, who immediately lost his balance and fell to his side along the bicycle. For a light crash, it gave off a rather noisy sound. The younger Taichi's face, elbows and knees were red with scratches as he lay tangled underneath the bicycle. It was back when he had just turned 7. He couldn't remember what had caused it, but Taichi had wanted to ride his bicycle without training wheels. If his memory wasn't faulty, he had practiced from morning to night, thinking that he would be able to get the hang of it in a day. But in reality, it hadn't been that simple. He kept falling over and over and over and over. By the time he gave up for the day and went home, his mother had been so worried over his state that she had fussed over him. The younger Taichi held back his tears as he stood up and got back on the bicycle again. While a part of him thought of how familiar it all was, another part of him felt guilty that he was killing time here, even though time was stopped, and it was making Taichi feel impatient. What was the point of recreating this memory in the first place? What sort of training was it supposed to give him? "Don't give up. Keep up the hard work and it will surely answer back one day." Was that it? But something felt wrong. Piccomon had said himself that there was no answer. So what was it? Taichi moved his gaze from his younger self to the crest he held in his palm. According to Piccomon, the crest had a name. It was called the Crest of Courage. Courage, huh? Taichi remembered the moment that he had first got the crest. He let his friends run ahead of him and had prepared to die when he threw stones at Edamon. That had been courage. Next, he remembered when Skull Greymon evolved. In order to make Greymon evolve to perfect level, he had jumped out in front of the enemy Greymon. That must have been another sort of courage too. So what difference was there between those two courages? Now that he thought about it, the latter seemed to be rather calculating. In order to make Greymon evolve to perfect, he had forced himself into a situation for courage to come out. Was that it? While he was thinking of that, the younger Taichi suddenly lost his temperature. "I can't do it! I can't ride a bike!" Taichi's lip curled involuntarily. So that had happened before. He'd forgotten all about it. Apparently memories were made up so that you could forget whatever inconvenient things that had happened to you. Taichi, what should we do?" Agumon asked. But Taichi said, "Nothing. I'm not the kind of guy to give up just from that." And so he sat down against the railing of the bridge and silently watched his younger self struggle. "I'm pretty stubborn, if I do say so myself," Taichi thought with an exasperated admiration. "What am I getting so worked up for?" While the younger Taichi's face leaked with quiet tears, he'd keep getting back on his bicycle over and over. Each time he'd fall, curse, make abusive sounds through clenched teeth, and even start wailing that it just couldn't be done. A vicious battle was raging outside of the barrier. Oh, but since time stands still here, I guess it's weird to say that. But somehow, Taichi had lost concern about that. How much time had passed already? The young Taichi suddenly cried out with glee and pride. "All right, I'm riding it! I'm riding a bike without training wheels!" And he was, swaying unsteadily as he did so, but he was riding the bicycle. Saying that, Taichi looked at his younger self fondly and said quietly, "You did great, Taichi." At that moment, Taichi felt a trace as if he had grabbed something. It wasn't a clear answer, but a dim and faint something. But still, something. Taichi wasn't aware of what it was, but maybe it was probably to acknowledge and accept oneself. No matter who they were, everyone lacked something and everyone made mistakes. But if all one did was worry about their bad parts, they were making it harder for themselves to see what was just good about them. That wasn't an answer, it was just one explanation. Maybe this was what Pixiemon was talking about. Taichi pushed himself off the handrail and spoke to Agumon. "Let's go, Agumon. Everyone's waiting for us." His face looked bright and fresh for the first time in days, as if a dark shadow had been lifted from it. Alright, and that was our 11th novel part. So thanks for listening, and again, of course, thank you to OnK for translating this novel. I will link everything in the link dump, so check that out. Our Redbubble's also linked in the description, and get more than just shirts there too. You can contact us to stay updated. You can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode or message us on our website, LostinTranslationmon.com, where you can vote in polls, check our release schedule, and our blog posts. And of course, you can follow us on @TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Instagram, and YouTube. Facebook is kind of weird at the moment because for some reason it's not automatically posting any posts I make on the website to our Facebook automatically, and it appears to have deleted a lot of our old posts that were automatically shared between the two platforms, so I have no idea what's up with that. I'll look into it when I'm less busy. So yeah, just be aware. We still have Facebook, it's just being weird. So we also have discussion thread on With the Will and a red thread in the Digimon subreddit. And we would appreciate if you were viewers on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or any other podcast listening app that you use. We're on Spotify, we're on Google Play Music, whatever it's called. I don't know. I use Player FM. Any podcast listening platform, we should be there. And if we're not, let us know. And we hear that ratings assist people finding out about the podcast. We haven't received any for a while, but I'll definitely read them out on the podcast when we do. So please do that if you haven't already. And as I mentioned, we have a website. You can donate to our Patreon, which is linked in the description, from as little as $1 a month. That gets you access to a listener Discord server, but there are high levels of more rewards such as notes, early episodes, and more. And of course, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Joe, Anime Guy, who's Anime Guy Kurosaki1 on YouTube, Stephen Reeves, who is Wildwing64 and Archive Our Own, Kaidawaji, Chisai, who you can follow on Tumblr at Chisai236, Kyle, Tom, Lizmet, who is a Legmon on Tumblr, Nicholas, Sam, Spiral, Keith from a computer podcast on the internet, Magnus, and Hemi. And you can also make a one-off donation on our PayPal, which can be found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Airdramon. You can also donate to me on Ko-fi, which is ko-fi/Airdra. And thanks for listening, guys. See you next time. Bye!